Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for what I've called the contractor conversation. Today, we're going to be discussing important things that home buyers and home sellers should know when working with contractors, such as repair costs, how to avoid scams, and all that good stuff. And to help with this conversation, I have Michelle Walker here with me today. She is the co-owner of Home Fixology, which is a licensed and insured company dedicated to helping homeowners maintain, improve, and update their homes the right way. She and her husband, Brian, bring over 30 years of experience in the construction and real estate industries. They've done the work themselves and have also trained contractors on critical business practice, including insurance, billing, and lien management.
Mhm.
Home Fixology is a licensed builder, EPA, lead safe certified, and a VA approved builder. They're committed to doing thorough, high quality work that homeowners can trust. So thank you, Michelle, for being here. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So first question is, why is it so hard for people to find good contractors?
Yeah, that's a common question. And honestly, it's hard because the word good means different things to different people, right? For some, it's about a good price or good quality or good communication, or maybe the contractor is reliable, so we feel like they're good. But the reality is, not all contractors have the same level of training or even experience. Not everyone takes the same pride in their work, right? Some people mean well, but they may not know how to do all the work that they take on. Another factor could be the business side of things, right? Like being properly insured or communicating clearly, even showing up on time or standing behind your work. Those things are just as important as doing the work themselves, and not every contractor, unfortunately, is strong in those areas. So I guess when you put that all together, I see why it's not easy for homeowners to know what contractors they can trust.
Yeah, because they're like you say, I mean, everyone has different expectations and what's important or not important. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. If you've enjoyed watching this video and would love to stay up to date when I have more content like this or something similar that you may be interested in, please like and subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you get notifications. And I hope you have a great day. So how should the process ideally go when someone is hiring a contractor?
Well, I'd say the first step should be the homeowner do their due diligence, right? Thoroughly check out the contractor. Ask them if they're licensed and insured. Get that documentation. Read their reviews. See if you know anybody that's used them. Make sure that they've done the work that you're interested in having them do. Flat out ask them, have you done this before? Um, Define the scope of work to the contractor clearly. This is what I expect to be done. From there, the contractor should walk through the project with the homeowner, explain the process, the materials that they're going to use. What is the timeline that they think this project's going to take? Go over any challenges that they see initially in the project. And then, most importantly, everything should be in writing. What's the scope of work? What's the cost? Again, the timeline, put it in writing. Payment schedule. When are payments due and how much? Is there permits involved? And I guess following that process will really help prevent any misunderstandings and cost issues down the road.
Yeah, because I think one of the common things is, people are getting estimates of what the work is going to cost. And then there's like that gray area of, okay, we gave you an estimate, right? But that may not be the final price when everything's done because once we get into it, things may come up. But then in some cases, the contractor is going ahead and doing something that the owner did not agree to hire them to do, and then they still charge them per se. Um, what are your thoughts on those things?
Well, exactly. And just because you got an estimate from three different contractors doesn't mean every contractor put all the details in their estimate, right? So you're not always comparing apples to apples. So it's really important to go over the scope of the work and what is included in your estimate, right? Are all the materials included? Are you buying the materials? Am I buying the materials, right? and make sure you're really comparing apples to apples because when people go by just price, like you said, come to the end of the project, their estimate may have been lower, but it's lower because they didn't include everything, and you don't find that out till it's too late.
Yeah, so you think in some cases, um, the intent is for them to give a price so that they can get the work, and then now that we're involved in the process, it's too late. You're going to have to pay me because you hired.
Right, right.
Okay. So how can they make sure they are hiring a licensed contractor and that any work that requires a permit that the contractor is actually getting that done?
Right. So, like I said, do your due diligence, asking if they're licensed and insured, request that documentation, ask if they've done similar projects. When it comes to projects for permits, don't rely on the contractor knowing whether there's a permit or not. I suggest that the homeowner call the local municipality and ask, here's my specific project. Is a permit required? And if it is required, the contractor is the one that should be pulling that permit, not the homeowner, um, because those permits are in place to protect the homeowner to make sure the work is done up to code. Make sure everything's in writing, like I mentioned before. If the contractor suggests skipping the permit to save time and money, that's a big red flag. Like I said, that's in place to protect the homeowner to make sure everything is done safely. So I suggest, take those extra steps up front, and that can help save a lot of stress, time, money down the road.
So for the most part, you're suggesting that they try to find out what would be required ahead of time and not just let them decide let the contractor decide if they're going to do it or not.
Right.
So what repairs should a handy homeowner who can, do things themselves, always have a contractor do, even if it's something that's, they say, oh, it's simple and easy, I'll just do it, I can save money.
Well, that's a great question because everyone wants to do everything themselves to save money, but sometimes it winds up costing more. So I'd say anything electrical is a big one. Always get a contractor because, that's a safety hazard if it's not done correctly. Same for plumbing, small mistakes could lead to bigger issues like leaks or water damage. Structural is another thing, anything involving removing walls or beams or supports, that shouldn't be guessed on. And especially if it requires a permit, it's best handled by a licensed contractor. I guess a good rule of thumb is anything that you need YouTube to figure out how to do it, it might be a good time to call in a professional. Because at the end of the day, if it involves risk, safety, or something that could become costly because of damage, it's worth having a contractor do instead of you doing yourself.
Right, because sometimes some of the smaller things can cause more damage if they're not fixed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the most common scams you hear people come across when they're hiring a contractor that, they shouldn't have hired?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. The big one that we hear all the time that people need to watch out for is paying a deposit and then the contractor never shows up. Or the contractor starts the work, you make your first installment payment or second, however many payments you've made, and then they don't come back and finish the job. Another thing, contractors asking for a large upfront payment, a big like 1/3 of the cost up front or something like that, and not pulling the permits or cutting corners with, poor materials or poor workmanship. Um, and maybe not having a written contract. It's kind of hard to hold somebody accountable when nothing's in writing, right? And in those cases, homeowners may have to end up paying twice, right? You paid the wrong contractor to start the project, and now you have to pay somebody to fix the work. So make sure you do that due diligence up front, know who you're hiring. And if something seems off, trust your gut.
Yeah. Now, are you saying those are the worst stories you've ever heard, or is there
Yeah.
something that's been okay?
Yeah.
All right. So if a homeowner does get scammed, in the process of working with a contractor, what steps do you recommend they take to resolve the issue?
That's tough. But I'd say the key is act quickly and make sure you're organized. Keep your contract, your receipts, any proof of payment, all your communications, whether it's text or email or voicemails, any photos that you took of the work, before or along the process. The more evidence that you have, the stronger, your case could be. Try a formal demand letter. Reach out to the contractor formally and ask them either to complete the work or refund your money. Another thing you can do is you can check with the licensing board, LARA. That's the department responsible for professional licensing, and file a complaint with them, or the Michigan Attorney General, or even your local law enforcement. If none of those steps work, I'd say then the next step is legal action. Small claims court can handle a case damages up to $7,000. If your project is more than that, then you're looking at district or circuit court, right? In those courts, you're going to need an attorney, unfortunately. Um, but just as important, prevention, right? Avoid those large upfront payments. Don't pay in cash or don't pay with a payment app, because those you have no recourse, right? You can't get your money back then. Always have that written contract. Um, and, trying to take those steps in the beginning can help to protect you.
Yeah, because if there's nothing in writing, could they still you know, potentially put a lien on the property and indicate that, I never got whatever because there's no proof of why you paid them?
Potentially, yeah, unless you have enough written documentation, right? Maybe you don't have the contract, but maybe there's emails or voicemails or, something that you can go by.
Okay. Um, so should, and that kind of goes into the next question, actually, I guess. So should buyers and sellers do more to protect themselves from a contractor putting a mechanical lien on the property besides just having their receipts and, possibly getting a sworn statement? And for people who don't know, mechanical lien is basically something that protects the contractor where they're putting a lien on your property that they did the work for, to indicate that money was not paid. And so that way, if you ever sell or try to do something, they will get paid that way.
Right. And that's a good question because a lot of homeowners, they don't fully understand how a construction lien works. And like you just said, that's what surprises them. They think, well, I paid my contractor, but that doesn't mean that everyone else got paid, right? If the contractor
Mm.
didn't pay another subcontractor or a supplier for the materials, those parties can still file the lien on the property. And like I said, most people don't understand that. They think, well, I paid them in full, I'm good. Well, no, those other people can come along and still lien the property. So, in order to take those extra steps, request the sworn statement from the contractor. Now, that's a document that the contractor prepares. They list all the parties on there that are either providing labor or materials for that specific project. And then once you make a payment, make sure that those people sign a lien waiver saying that they've been paid in full. Um, and that helps to protect you along the way. And same thing if you're making those progress payments, collect those lien waivers, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your money you're paying is actually going to everybody doing the work and everybody supplying the materials.
Okay. Um, So a person has to fire a contractor that they realize shouldn't have been hired in the first place, and then they're bringing on someone new, and some work was done. What kind of tips do you have to help the homeowner not make it take, almost like they're starting over? Because in some cases, right, a contractor may try to convince the owner they take everything up, and they may not really need to do that.
Right.
How can they make sure they're not spending more money or spending more time if they have to hire someone new?
I think it's kind of on a case by case basis because it depends on really why was the contractor let go? Was it poor workmanship? Was it just because they took too long? There was a lot of delays or maybe something else, right? So, like you said, they're in a hurry to get the job done because of this situation, but they have to really kind of take a step back and evaluate what existing work was done. Is it acceptable? what needs to be redone, right? And then document everything so you can show the new contractor. Here's the contract that I had. Here's the photos. Here's what work they've had done. So that when that new contractor comes in, they're very clear on what the scope was. They can see what needs to be done, what may need to be fixed, and then they can prepare that new scope of work for their piece of it. So like I said, take your time, of course, because that little extra time might save you from not having to do this a third time, right? You want to make sure this next contractor knows what they're doing, knows what the scope is, so you can get it done.
Okay. So a lot of contractors don't like to do small projects. I mean, my thought is just because they don't want to spend time on something that will give them a smaller return. Is that pretty much the reason, or do you find there's other reasons why they don't want to do small projects?
So, it's definitely more than just the pay for contractors not wanting to do the small things. A lot of contractors have high overhead, right? They have their insurance, their licensing, their vehicles, employees, materials, all of that. And when you factor in travel time to and from a job, that smaller job always doesn't make financial sense, right? By the time they're paying the technician to go out and they cover their costs, there's very little, if any, margin left for the company to make any money. And then it could also be on efficiency, right? Many contractors are structured to do a large project. So if they switch to schedule multiple jobs throughout the day, that can be challenging because each job comes with its own set of problems, I guess you could say, right? And those jobs could take a little bit longer and a little bit longer, and it throws the whole day off. So they're less predictable than one large job. Um, but again, the smaller jobs are the ones that homeowners need to do, right? They need someone to help maintain their home so they don't turn into the bigger issues. That's really how we've positioned Home Fixology different. We've built our model around being able to serve those needs efficiently while still doing quality work.
Okay. No, that's good to know. I didn't think about that. And so yeah, that's what I guess it kind of goes into that as well. So what are the most common repairs that Home Fixology covers? And is it the reason why, I mean, is the small projects kind of a reason why you kind of started the company?
Yeah, exactly. We saw a gap where homeowners need help with those things, and contractors, like I said, weren't interested. But those things really matter. And for us, it's really about serving people. We love helping the homeowners feel taken care of and confident in their home without feeling like they're being overlooked just because, well, my job isn't big enough, right? We want solutions for them that are going to last and help them avoid the bigger issues down the road. So the most common repairs that we do, like you said, are the smaller things, the maintenance, the setup items that they need help with, but they don't have the time or maybe tools to do them. Things like drywall repairs, caulking, door lock changes. We do a lot of home setup items like installing TVs and blinds, mounting pictures on the wall, changing out faucets, light fixtures. But we also do those maintenance things, replace your smoke detector, fix a plumbing leak, adjust a door that maybe won't close, other things around the house. So we really try to help the homeowner stay ahead of the issues and provide a convenience so that their home is safe.
Yeah, no, that's great to know. Now do you take on bigger projects if they need that, or you just strictly stick with the smaller projects?
We'll do small remodels as well, but I think the majority of our work is those smaller tasks that no one else will come out to do. You know, that's the bigger need.
Yeah, yeah, most people are looking for. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because I think sometimes too, maybe someone doesn't want a whole kitchen remodel, but they just want new countertops or reface the cabinets. And then sometimes the contractor try to convince them, oh, we should just redo the whole kitchen again.
Right.
That's not what I'm asking for. And so would you say that your costs and fees are, competitive or maybe, even less than some other contractors who would do the larger projects because you're focusing on the smaller thing, but they want more out of it.
Yes, absolutely. Our pricing is very competitive. We price shop other companies in our area, so we know where the market is. Most cases, we're lower than what homeowners can typically find. But really, for us, it's not just about being the cheapest, right? It's providing that fair, transparent pricing for quality work. Since we focus on those smaller projects, like you said, we've built our model to be efficient and cost effective for those homeowners that are in the need. We're very upfront about our cost before any work begins, so there's no surprise. And the goal is to truly give those homeowners a reliable option so they can get the work done without overpaying, um, or feeling like their project's too small and everyone's just ignoring me and I'm never going to get this done, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too is the communication part of someone saying they're going to do it but never show up. Just if you're
Yeah,
not gonna do it, say you're not going to do it, right? But they're
right.
scared about that. Okay. Well, that's the last question that I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I just want to say that Home Fixology is built for the homeowners that don't always have the time, tools, or desire to tackle those small repairs, maintenance, minor updates that comes with owning a home. And our goal is to help them stay ahead of those things so that they're taken care of. We cover a wide range of services like light plumbing, light electrical, carpentry, painting, interior and exterior work. And we serve 9 counties, so we make it easy for homeowners to get that reliable help when they need it. We focus on serving the people, not just fixing things,
And you
really.
said you're in 9 counties. What counties are those?
Oh, you're testing me.
Or you can say the
Um,
main ones. Yeah.
it's easy to say we go from Port Huron to Flint to Ann Arbor and back. So the counties in those surrounding areas, we're out of Macomb. So, the 9 counties surrounding is our service area.
Okay. And then if someone is looking to get a quote or learn more about home fixology, how can they reach you guys?
Yep. So they can call or text 586-690-6211.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was helpful and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, Patrice.
You're welcome. Bye.